It all started off in Santa's workshop. The elves were just doing their work until they heard Santa call their names. They heard him, looked over, saw Santa, as they thought it was Santa. He asked for their names, and he had a piece of paper in his hand. They went to go look at it, noticed it was their actual names. So they believed Santa. He asked them to follow him into a place. They didn't know where, but they followed him anyways. So they set off outside of the workshop, not knowing what to do, but just follow. They were following Santa for miles and started to gain suspicions. When they got to the top of the mountain and Santa didn't know where he was actually going. So they had to backtrack all the way back to the workshop, which made the elves think, is this actually the real Santa? But they had no choice but to believe, because all the elves have in their heart is trust. So they believed that this was the real Santa, but in reality, it was just a fake. Santa brought them to a cave that they'd never seen before. When he walked in, they noticed Santa's actual clothes were pinned to the wall, and a bunch of guards were all around. They didn't know what was going on. Santa kept saying, "Follow him, follow me, this way." So they still did anyway. Then they noticed a jail cell that was in here that they never saw before. So Santa set blocks and told them to get in. They didn't want to, of course. And all of a sudden Santa turned bad. Santa kept screaming, "Get in, get in." Started beating yells. He refused to go in. Then all of a sudden, got hit in. He woke up by the sounds of somebody calling his name. They said, "Look up," and noticed Eve got out the cage. He wondered how she got out, but she did it anyways. But little did Santa know they had a way to get out. By the vines, of course. Then they heard footsteps coming by. And of course it was the one and only great Krampus. Krampus knocked him back in the cage, but noticed that there was a vine for him to get out of the way. He saw his chance to escape. Kevin was just running down the hallway, thinking he got away, feeling free. Then all of a sudden he noticed Krampus was running right behind him.
Oh God, no, 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 I must be free.
Hearing some noise was sounded to be like Eve, his friendly elf, and it was. They were finally reunited after Krampus had split them up. Now, as they already saw, Santa down at the bottom, which they did not learn from before that the real Santa is not at the North Pole. But then they also noticed something different about Santa. He had a book, and they know Santa despises books. So they took off, leaving the fake Santa in suspense, not knowing what to do. But after that, he decided to hide. But then he realized his friendly elf was lost and getting chased by the fake Santa. So he tried to set out to go and find her, not knowing that she was still in the workshop. He heard screams, so he tried to go back, but he still didn't know what to do. So he just ran back upstairs to where he knows where she was at after the screams. After a while of searching, he found her, so they immediately ran and escaped the building. They noticed it was dark out too. I thought it was just light out. Then they realized as they were running, Krampus, they came out of nowhere. So they had to take off immediately, panicking, not knowing what to do, taking off into the night. As they were running, They turned and noticed Krampus was distracted by one of the guards, so they instantly had to take off and go try to find the real Santa. But they didn't know where to go, so they just decided to go to back to the workshop where they thought he would actually be. But turns out, well, you'll see. As he got into the workshop, he didn't find Santa. He just found Krampus once again, forcing him to jump off the edge. But that still didn't stop him. He saw Eve running down the hill, so he just started to run with her. Faster and faster, he started to run, while Krampus was right behind him, not stopping. He turned around and noticed that he wasn't chasing him anymore. He was going after Eve. So he immediately had to remind her, not remind her, warn her that Krampus was on his way. It didn't take Kevin any long time to notice that he just had to take the first train out of here. So he grabbed the track, put all the other stuff away, went to the track, set his train down, and instantly tried to take off. Then he realized Santa was already there, blocking the trails. Santa was trying to beat him, but he still kept going anyways. Not knowing Santa was this smart, it doesn't take a rocket science to find this out. He switched over to the other side, started going backwards again and again. Then he realized Eve was right there blocking, so as much as he hated it, he used her as a distraction, and he took out of there fast. He had to get out of there to save his life. He finally came to his final stop after a long ride on the train. So he decided to get off and just wait for Eve to show up, but she never did. That got him very worried, but so he just still kept waiting and waiting. He checked the front door to see if she would show up, if she was running up. Neither one. So he waited for a long period of time, and she still never showed up. So he decided to take off back to Santa's workshop, see if she was there, because where else would she be? That's what he thought. He thought the safest place would be the workshop. He sat outside for a long time, waiting for Eve. Still never showed up. And Kevin noticed that it was thundering and snowing very harder than usual on the North Pole. And he knows the only one that can cause it is Krampus himself. So he decided to go back inside the building and see if Eve was inside. When he got inside the building, he realized all the lights in the tree were gone. So he had to get out of there immediately. He didn't like it in there. His second thought of where Eve or Santa would be is in the huge clock tower, where he has not checked yet. So he decided to set off and go inside there. When he got inside, it was all perfect until he realized when he went to the counter nobody's there, besides Rudolph's head, pinned. He just couldn't understand what he was seeing. So he hurried up and took off upstairs, trying to find somebody. Nobody. Food was laid out, but still nobody was there to claim it. So he went up even higher to see if anybody would be inside. Went outside, nobody in sight. He was just too scared to understand what was going on, besides Krampus taking over the North Pole. So he goes to the very top. Still, nobody in sight. So he decides to go back downstairs, look out the window to make sure Krampus was nowhere in sight. Then he remembered he was supposed to take off back to the workshop because Eve was supposed to meet him there. So he quickly hurried and ran all the way to the workshop.
Oh, those lights. God, I'm seeing. Eve, I forgot. She went back to the Santa's workshop. Gotta go back.
He was quickly just running down the sidewalk, trying to get there as fast as he could. But it wasn't fast enough. He realized that Krampus set a trap
No!
in the middle of the sidewalk.
No!
He didn't know what
No!
to do besides
No,
just
we
dig
gotta.
himself out.
No!
But he didn't realize that at first,
I'm in a
until he
hole!
realized he was just surrounded by a
I'm
bunch of
trapped.
fruitcake. So he dug it up, switched
I'm
over
getting
to
out.
it,
I gotta get out.
and dug his way out.
Oh, don't worry. I'm out.
They noticed Krampus was right behind
Oh
him,
no! No!
waiting for him to fall in that
No!
hole,
No!
and Krampus ended his life.